Hello and welcome to Blog of the Net, the football podcast, episode 3, the Champions League final review. I'm Rich Clark, a full-time football analyst, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Justin Side. Hello, Justin.
Hello there. How are we?
Doing all right, doing well. Not far removed from the Champions League final, so looking forward to chatting all things about that with you.
Interesting game. Very interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. We can delve into it some more. Just give a preview. We're going to be covering every big chance, all the statistics, the expected goals, as well as the tactics and which players had the most influence on the game, or could have had a better game, perhaps. We're broadcasting in audio and video as usual. There'll be a lot of diagrams and images from the game today, so perhaps best in video, but we'll do our best to be as descriptive as possible in audio. And we've gone for our Champions League Classic shirts.
Yep. I think yours is probably better than mine, so we'll start with mine. Mine is from an all-conquering Pep Guardiola era. Barcelona were the defending champions at the time. They unfortunately got knocked out by Jose Mourinho's Inter Milan in the semi-final of this particular season, 09-10.
Yeah, very much the favourites that year, expected to go and win it again after their 2009 triumph, but not to be. Who's on the back?
Of course, Leo Messi.
Can't see it. We can't see it, by the way.
Oh,
I believe you. There we go. Well, I've gone a little bit more retro than that. I've gone back to 1995. We've got Ajax's Champions League winning shirt, the away shirt that they wore. Bit of Cliver action for you there. As Champions League final shirts go, this is the best one, so you couldn't have topped it anyway, so don't worry about it.
Ever. Best one ever.
Go on then.
No, I'm just...
I don't know. I'm just spitballing it. I reckon it's one of the best. It's great. That's why I bought it.
Yeah, it's a nice shirt.
Yeah. You're playing it down a little bit. Whatever. Okay, so at this point we've had the 30-man provisional England squad. Gareth Southgate changed his mind at the night before, announcing the squad with injuries and with 12 players in European finals. This past week, he wanted a little bit more time. So we know that Nick Pope isn't going to make it, unfortunately, due to injury. That was unforeseen. Not a lot we could have done about that one. The disappointing one is Eric Dyer. I say disappointing. It's disappointing from a prediction point of view, perhaps not from a selection point of view. But we've certainly got 1 and 2 with Pope wrong so far. We'll see where it goes. We'll do a full wrap-up when we have the final squad. And I'm sure that'll be part of our Euro 2020 preview, which will be our next episode in time for the tournament. So the PFA team suggestions, we had some good feedback, but we had some saying, why wasn't so-and-so in? Why was, this, that and the other? We had a complaint about Højbjerg being in the shortlist. I think I only kind of mentioned him because he's played every minute of the Premier League this season, and I think he's been okay. And the same person, who shall remain nameless, also wanted a few more Brighton players in there, or any Brighton players, actually. I just couldn't quite squeeze it in. How did you feel about that?
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Højbjerg. I think he's fine. Brighton players, I mean, you could have mentioned them towards the bottom of the conversation. Your Ben Whites, Trossard, Bissouma. They had okay seasons, decent seasons, let's say.
Yeah.
But they're not getting into the conversation about whether they'd be in the team or not, the final team. So I think it's a tough one.
So, yeah, basically we got it right. It's good to hear. I'm pleased you've said that. And I had someone else say that, a Tottenham fan, I will add, but they said that Hugo Lloris perhaps should have been on the shortlist for goalkeepers. Where'd you stand with that?
Yeah, definitely not.
Okay.
No chance.
Great. We've had some new subscribers to the YouTube channel this week. always good news. So Mr. Skittles, Rob Cuff, Rob Stewart, and Pitchside Podcast have all subscribed, and we really appreciate that. Thank you very much. You mentioned you were going to Villa Park, didn't you? I don't know whether that made the final
Yes.
cut. I think it was just on our little preview. But you went to Villa Park. You were playing football at Villa Park.
Yeah, played football. Loads of fun. If someone says to you, do you want to come play football on a Premier League pitch? You say yes. You find a way to say yes. You go down, you score a hat-trick, and you generally have a great time. And I did all of those things.
Did you? Oh, no. That was my next question. Did you actually score a hat-trick?
Definitely. Whole end hat-trick.
Just going to move on. Right, we should move on and we should talk Champions League final. It was a good game and I'm looking forward to this one. So the game was played in Porto. Could have been played in England. Apparently, that was all on until UEFA said that can we do it but without people quarantining and having to do tests and things. And the British government were like, probably shouldn't be doing that. And that's pretty much why it ended up elsewhere. So it couldn't... It meant we weren't going to get an English champion playing in England. Only twice before in the Champions League era have we had a team from that country win it in that country. That was Juventus in 96 and Dortmund in 97. No repeat of that here. City were the favourites. They were 20 for 23 to win the game on the odds that I took on Friday. And Chelsea were 15 for 4. You could have had Havertz at 9-1 for the first goal scorer. Spoiler alert. On our poll, it was 60-40, just like the possession. 60-40 in favour of City. People thought that City would be the victors, but it was not to be. So we saw the lineups. There's been a lot discussed with the lineups, so let's just get it out there. What did you think?
I mean, I was surprised. I was as surprised as anyone that there was no Fernandinho or Rodri in the team. That was quite the shock. A little bit surprised Cancelo didn't make it, mainly because I'm a big fan, but it feels like he's been favouring Zinchenko and Walker of late. But to have neither Rodri or Fernandinho was a massive curveball. I was expecting at least one of them to be in there. I imagine you'll agree.
Yeah, I'd predicted both teams. I had one wrong in each. So Havertz played for Pulisic, which is obviously like for like, and then it was Sterling for. I said Rodri. I would have been not at all surprised if Fernandinho played. I'd opted for Rodri, and for the second time this season, they opted for neither of them. The only other time they've done that was against Olympiacos in November in the Champions League. Against Chelsea, they've played with one defensive midfielder when they lost, two defensive midfielders in the FA Cup when they lost. Both of them played. And he thought, well, let's do it different again and go with none. I guess if he'd done the same things as he did before, Pep Guardiola would have been criticised for not changing it up. He certainly tried to change it.
Yeah, I think he did try to change it and go for a different approach. He really wanted to play high, wide wingers, which is why Sterling and Morris were pinned up high. I'm sure we'll go through that a bit later, but you've lost a bit of balance there for me. You haven't got that first pass every time. You haven't got that guy just sweeping up all the loose ends, and it proved costly in the end. Easy to say now, of course.
Yeah, that's always the issue with these things. We did talk about this when the teams came out. We were both surprised, and it is easy with hindsight. I dug up some of the quotes from the BT pundits who, fair play to them, it stuck out to them before kickoff. So Rio Ferdinand questioned it. He said, "No holding player. This is Pep just changing things again. And in a game like this, every time they've gone out, he's tinkered with the team, and he's done it again tonight." Joe Cole said, "That's stunning news. Out of respect for Chelsea's attacking threat, you'd think they'd have Rodri or Fernandinho. But that says to me he thinks he's dominating possession tonight. I feel more confident for Chelsea. He has history, Pep, where he's changed things up and it's not worked." So they kind of were both very sceptical of it, and rightly so. Cole also said Havertz has played his way back into the team in recent weeks. He's a lad who can affect the game. So that was a nice little precursor there. But in terms of dominating possession, they would always expect to dominate possession with or without a defensive midfielder, right?
Yeah, I think so, but there are different ways of dominating possession. And I think if you've got that holding midfielder there, he's always your first option from anywhere on the pitch. So anyone who has the ball, they can always go to that man. And that man can dictate the flow and pace of the game and really allow Man City to dominate with the ball in a way that they're in control. Where it kind of fell apart for them yesterday is that they were going up the pitch really quickly, trying to spring breaks on Chelsea, getting behind them as quickly as they can, and they would lose the ball. And at no point were they ever in control of the tempo or building up slow attacks. They didn't have any control over the game, which is where I think their biggest downfall was. And that holding player would give them more control over the game and what's going on, I feel.
Yeah, they wanted to get back to front quickly, not with a one long ball, although that was their first chance of the game, which we'll come on to. But they were trying to push it into those high areas and have people who can turn the Chelsea midfield and get involved, I think, rather than have a defensive player. I mean, it was a ludicrously attacking team, which is ironic because they really didn't build many, if any, good attacks.
No, I do think it must have been a reaction to the two defeats that he's recently had, and he's seen something, and Pep has seen something and thinks that there was some way he could exploit how Chelsea were going to set up, and it just didn't pan out the way he had, foreseen it. That's the only reason you would make those kinds of changes, I think. Off the back of those two recent games where they haven't dominated and created chances in the way he would have liked, playing their normal way.
So City lined up in a 4-3-3 with Zinchenko at left back, but he moved into sort of more of a 3-4-3 when City were in possession. That left Diaz in the left channel, Walker in the right channel, and Stones in the middle of their back three. And then it was like a diamond in the middle, which we'll come on to. But Zinchenko pushed on, and then the front 3, 4, 5 were kind of in rotation. De Bruyne and Foden rotated quite a lot. Chelsea, meanwhile, played their 3-4-2-1, which Tuchel has used in all the big games this season, including against City. And it was they want to start counter attacks and they want to be effective doing that, and they certainly managed that here. Chelsea being pretty much a 5-2-3 when they were without the ball. Reece James and Ben Chilwell dropping into a back five, leaving Kante and Jorginho in the middle, and then their front three were quite aggressive on the press.
I would say the game went about as perfectly for Chelsea as it could have gone. I mean, all of the focus is on Man City and the changes they made, but you have to say that Chelsea's game plan was brilliant and they executed it perfectly.
It was a superb performance from every player and Tuchel. Yeah, really, really stuck with me. I was really impressed with them. Their execution of it, just the way they stopped City, because people will come away and say Manchester City didn't perform, they didn't turn up, this player, that player. But there has to be another team, a good quality team that can do that to them. And it's no fluke, 3 times this season. And yeah, I think this was the best of the lot, and not just because of the occasion. If we look at the shot maps, and we look at shots just generally, it was 7-8 on shots. City with 7, Chelsea with 8. Inside the box, City had 4, Chelsea had 6. Pretty close. And you look at the map itself, and it all looks quite even.
Yeah, I looked at the map. Very similar. You would say one team had a huge dominance in that area for sure.
Yeah, I think when we go through the chances as we're going to, we'll come to realise though that it was quite a lot different when you go through those chances in terms of the quality. Chelsea managed a lot of blocks on some of the City's good openings. whereas Chelsea had far clearer sights on goal. So our first chance of the game, if we move to it, it came to Sterling from a long ball, as I alluded to earlier. Very simple, goes back to Ederson, and it's just a big hump upfield, which we've seen him do before, and he's brilliant at doing. Sterling reacts to this better than Reece James, and he's in trouble, isn't he?
Oh, the ball. Let's start with the ball. The ball is an absolutely monstrous kick that is bang on the money. It's pretty incredible stuff, and Sterling's run is excellent. And Reece James is just caught sleeping just for a split second, and that split second was enough. Sterling was basically in. It was a really bad touch that kind of let Reece James get back in.
Yeah, he's a little bit fortunate, James. There was credit given to him, and fair play. He got back, he kept going, he was there to stop him from advancing once he could. But if Sterling gets that touch right, he is in. If he doesn't touch it inside, even if he touches it forward and it's baggy, even to the left, I think he's got a better chance. But he, unfortunately, bounces off him a little bit. James gets back in, and he ends up Sterling with a sort of a back-heeled effort close to goal, but Mendy's got it covered. That chance was worth about 0.2 on the XG, so about a 20% chance overall of the chance being scored, and could have been more had Sterling taken it down a little bit better. But from that angle, in the end, it wasn't a really valuable chance. But an exciting start, and almost immediately after that, Werner had his first of a few chances of the game. So this was in the 9th minute, and it came from Havertz, and this was the air kick. What do you remember about the air kick?
This was the John Stones.
Yeah,
John Stones kind of had a kick at it, a swing at it as well, and kind of mishits it.
That's it. Rudiger hits a fairly straight ball, and yeah, Stones doesn't clear it.
Yeah, Havertz gets the ball, plays it out wide to Mason Mount, I think. He plays a lovely ball inside to Timo Werner, who's in prime position. Diaz is out of the game, and he has a swing and completely misses the ball. I think it was a really good chance.
Yeah,
He'd be disappointed.
It was an excellent chance. It was a good opening. It's a lovely bit of play out wide after City lose possession again. And Havertz pulls back. Diaz is close to Werner, but he's sort of on the turn as it falls to Werner's feet, and he's not in a position to really ever get round and block. So he's got a good sighter of goal, but he does just completely miss it, and it goes behind him. A lot of the XG models didn't cover it, don't have it on there. That's fairly common for air shots. Not that you get many of those, but when they do happen, especially with big chances, it can be valuable. So I made this 0.3 XG, so a very good chance, and the first big chance of the game. And Werner would have...
Yeah, I think that's fair.
The next big chance of the game as well. This time from Mason Mount, who intercepted a Diaz pass, and then Mount, as he did so often, driving forward the ball, finds Chilwell, and then Chilwell sort of chips it into the middle, and Stones has a go at clearing and messes it up again. He sort of tries to sort of almost control it backwards for himself, but Mount just nips in, gets it off him, sprints into the box with the ball, and it's just under Werner's feet slightly. He doesn't quite ever get hold of this. He takes a touch and he gets his shot away. Zinchenko does quite well to cover the far post, but it's not convincing, is it?
Yeah, he can't quite get enough power or accuracy on the shot, because it's kind of so close to his body that he can't do anything with it. He kind of just gets it away. It wasn't good enough. It was a decent opening.
Yeah. Well, it's according to the XG, it's the best chance of the game to that point. 0.35, 35% chance you would see Werner score there. If he just gets his feet right, he's got a much better chance. He could have gone near post. In the end, it sort of goes near post, but not with any conviction, and Ederson just lands on it. It's a fairly straightforward one. Werner had another chance very shortly after this, but not a particularly good chance. He gets the ball on the outside, tries to go around Stones to the left, and Stones gets a little nick on it and it hits the side netting. But 3 chances for Chelsea, all for Werner. We spoke about him on the PFA episode, talking about how he can't finish his dinner. He gets into great positions. That is the hardest bit. That is the skill. But we've got to be seeing more, haven't we?
Yeah, I think he played very well last night. He caused those Man City defenders all kinds of problems. His running in behind. He was interchanging positions with Mount and Werner at time, Mount and Havertz at times. But yeah, he really needs to put some of these chances away more often. He was very clinical in Germany, but he needs to bring that over here because he is a very talented player.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Do you think maybe it's a confidence thing, or bad luck?
Yeah, well, there is a bad luck element. I do think there's a confidence thing, and I think that probably comes from those first 5 games. Luck doesn't go your way, or you're not set or composed a couple of times, and then maybe it gets in his head. I don't know. That's how I feel. Often these things can snowball, but he is a good player. I do really like him, and he offers a lot for Chelsea. And Tuchel seems to really like him.
Yeah,
and
not so much Abraham though.
No, we should talk about that.
I did forget to mention that when we were talking about lineups. They named 2 goalkeepers on the bench, 2 left backs on the bench, and no Tammy Abraham on the bench. That is quite something.
12 subs and no Abraham. Yeah.
Caballero and Kepa, your goalkeepers. Emerson and Alonso, your left backs. I mean, you've got to find room for Abraham somewhere. There's something not quite right there.
No, there is something not quite right there. I would be very shocked if he's there next season. He seemed to have a good time at the final whistle. Fair play to him. Didn't seem to deter him from the celebrations. But yeah, I feel for him. He done well under Lampard. And he may not be at the level that Tuchel requires. Fair enough. I'm sure he'll go elsewhere and get some good game time. The 4th Chelsea chance of the game was not for Werner. This was the first, not for Werner. It was that Kante header, a little chipped ball from Chilwell. It's not a great chance. It's in a good position, but a header at that height with the pace of the cross, 2 defenders on the cover, he doesn't quite get a hold of it and heads wide. But Kante getting in the opposition box, you love to see it.
Yeah, I just think you're asking a bit too much of him in this situation. He's got 2 defenders. If he puts that in, he's doing very well.
Yeah, 0.1 xG, so very low. It's also around this time that we start to see some patterns emerge in terms of City's shape, playing a back 3 when in possession. Zinchenko stepping in to make it a diamond in midfield, either Foden or De Bruyne at the top of that diamond, with Gundogan at the base. Bernardo Silva to the right, Mahrez on the right wing, Sterling on the left wing. Chelsea were quite aggressive on that first initial press with their front 3, matched 3 for 3. Once City kind of got out, they were happy for Walker and Diaz to progress up with the pitch, because Walker made many a burst forward, but they didn't seem too worried about it.
Yeah, I think they were almost in a way inviting it. I think that they hoped that they would come out so high that once they won the ball back, like someone like Walker comes out of position so much, once they win the ball back, they'll exploit those areas, break really quickly when you've got defenders running backwards, and I think it worked out in their favour, to be honest.
Yeah, there was a couple of great examples of this. There's one around the 20-minute mark, which will show on the screen, where Diaz comes forward from the left channel, and it just becomes crowded. Although Chelsea sit off initially, they then start swarming as he comes forward and advance into the opposition half. and he's got nowhere to go. And City lose the ball again. As soon as he loses it, Chelsea break fast, and that's what they were so good at throughout this game.
I think that they were expecting that to happen. That they obviously weren't expecting Rodri, Fernandinho to be missing, but they were expecting this to be what they would do, because Cancelo will, if he's playing regularly, come and join in the midfield, and they'll play as a three at the back, and they're just inviting them on to a certain extent, soaking up the pressure to a certain point, then squeezing, hoping to win the ball back and break very quickly, and they did it well.
Yeah, you're right. Cancelo has often stepped into that midfield position, and whether they played with a defensive midfielder or not, one would have been at the base. So Tuchel could have expected something similar here, just perhaps different personnel. So the next good chance for the game came after 27 minutes. It was for Foden. This time, City nicked the ball back off Chelsea. Chelsea are set in that 5-2-3, but Chilwell and James join in to turn it into the 3-4-3. And as they do, City nick it back, and they're away. And De Bruyne gets free, and he plays a lovely ball inside the box to Foden. But he doesn't get his touch right, a little bit like Sterling, and he invites Rudiger to come and make the block. And it's a good block, but you expect him to make it because the touch is very, very loose.
Yeah, he just needed to be a quicker touch and shot. He was in a fantastic position. Rudiger gets along, gets over very quickly with his big long leg, and blocks it. I had to rewatch it because I thought maybe he could have shot to the side that Rudiger wasn't on, but Rudiger comes across so far that doesn't matter where he shoots, it's getting blocked.
Yeah, by the time he takes that touch, it's taking it away from him, and Rudiger pounces and very quick to react. Fair play to him. But low on the XG again, 0.1, 0.15 maybe. It's a low scoring chance for City, and they're not going to have many better. Well, I think we've pretty much laid out the best City chances in terms of what they actually carved open. So after 37 minutes, we saw Kante steal the ball again, and it was that good break where he goes to the right and picks out Havertz. He's running towards Stones, who positions himself well, to his credit. Werner's running through, and I feel the pass was infield. Then he can maybe use Mason Mount. You've just got more options if you're playing centrally. As it goes to his right to Havertz, he then gets tackled by Zinchenko, unfortunately.
I think classic scenario. You got so many options, and you're in two minds. You don't know which one to pick. I actually think if you look at it just before he plays the ball, Stones moves one way. I think it's Diaz kind of goes the other. He's got a clear shot at goal from the edge of the box. I think a different player, and Mason Mount would be taking that on.
Yeah, I'm perhaps influenced by who's in control of the ball there. I think that's a fair point. He could have a go from there. I'd need to look at the angle again, but I trust my co-host. If you tell me that he had a sighter, he had a sighter. It was just very typical of what Chelsea were doing in the game. And this is a really good one where we see the number of options that they had and how it could have been punished, and it could have been a lot worse for City. So Thiago Silva went off after 39 minutes with an injury, unspecified. I couldn't actually figure out what it was. It seemed to be a landing, but nobody cares this morning about his injury. They only care about someone else who got injured. So he goes off. Any suggestion that Silva bottled it?
No, definitely not. He looks very upset to be going off the pitch.
Oh, okay. Well, I heard it about someone else that played for City, so I thought it worked both ways, but it's only if you win or you lose, I think. I think that's how this works. Okay, that's fine. A few short minutes later, and Chelsea had the lead. Kai Havertz from Mason Mount. And it starts with Mendy, starts with the goalkeeper again. It's a big switch out to Chilwell, and I think this is about the third time they tried this. Within about a 15-minute period, Chilwell had passed infield, and they hadn't quite got out they'd gone backwards. It had come to nothing. This time they do get out. Mendy gets it to Chilwell. It's a lovely little cushion pass for Mount in field, and that kind of takes Walker away, and he can't go and intercept immediately. Mount spins, and from there, I'd given a lot of credit for a good pass, and it's a really good pass from Mount. But the space is unreal that he can hit for Havertz, and it's pretty unforgivable, is it not?
Yeah, oh, very much so. I mean, Werner makes a very good dummy run to take DS away from that central area, and Zinchenko kind of just falls asleep or gets wrong side of Havertz, and Havertz has half a pitch to run into, unopposed, and it's a pretty simple ball really. For it's a good pass. Don't get me wrong, but he's got a big area to aim at, and Havertz just has everything in front of him. It's criminal really from Man City, and I hadn't remembered that it had started from Mendy. I had presumed that it had won the ball and broke really quickly, because the fact that they started from their own goalkeeper and kind of built the attack, and Man City being ripped apart like that I just don't understand how that's being allowed to happen.
If someone nicks the ball away from one of your midfielders, you're all over the place. Just like the Chelsea chance or the City chance where they nicked it off Chelsea a moment ago from Foden. Chelsea are stretched. You can understand it. When it goes back to the goalkeeper, you shouldn't be building a chance like that, and it'd be so easy and have a one-on-one. But
within two passes as well.
Zinchenko is.
Pep will be tearing his hair out.
Yeah.
When they watch that back, they'll be
very good.
Yeah. When they watch it back, though, they'll be very disappointed that's been allowed to happen, and that changes everything. It just gives Chelsea all of the control. Yeah.
Havertz clean through. Edison comes out of the area. I think he touches it with his arm. He gets a little bit of a touch as Havertz goes round.
Yeah, he definitely does. He definitely does. I think he gets overlooked. It gets overlooked because the ball goes in the net.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. So worth about 0.55 xG. Very high. The best chance of the game, and Havertz takes it really well. One more reasonable chance in the game, of the half, excuse me. Just into stoppage time, Werner chests down a little Kante chip into the box, but he skews it well wide, very low on the XG. But it was a nice position for him inside the box, and his fourth chance of the game. I just like adding up Werner chances, really.
Fair enough. I don't think there's much to add on that.
So the second half started out a little bit more tentatively. The chances weren't flowing like they were in that opening period of the first half, and it was less open. Is that fair to say?
I think so. Well, definitely. It was definitely less open. There's not much to talk about in the second half, really, in terms of big chances. City were kind of trying to keep the ball a bit more, but I think that was a product of Chelsea just being happy for them to have the ball in non-dangerous areas and said, "Go on, break us down if you can."
And they couldn't, could they?
And then no, they couldn't. They created very, very little, nothing of quality, and the longer it goes on, the more comfortable Chelsea get just doing their thing.
Yeah. I mean, Mendy really, he had almost nothing to do. It was frightening. So De Bruyne went off after an hour. Jesus came on to replace him. Rudiger definitely means to block him off, but probably not break his. Did he break his cheekbone? Is that what we found out today?
Cheekbone, fractured his nose and orbital socket. I think something like that. Yeah.
We're giving him a pass for that.
I mean, I am. We've got a friend who thinks that he should be playing on through it, but I think he's broken his face. So, yeah, he can come off.
Hi, Toby, if you're listening.
Um,
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. And although he hadn't been having a good game at all, much like any of City's players, it was a big blow for them. A few moments later, Sterling had a shot from outside the box, and City wanted a penalty. A penalty for you?
Not for me, Clive.
Okay.
Big appeals though. Every Man City player
Oh.
was going bananas.
Oh, yeah. And you're supposed to do that, I guess. But desperation more than anything. The rules are pretty clear on that. If it bounces up off another body part onto the arm, hand, from close distance, it's not a penalty, and quite rightly.
Yeah, no problem with that one.
So Fernandinho eventually made his way onto the pitch. Shortly after this, 64 minutes, Bernardo came off and Fernandinho came on. I guess sort of a defensive move. Not really, though. Gundogan moves into Bernardo's position and Fernandinho drops into the deepest lying midfielder. So correcting himself or just changing it, it's hard to say, but
No, I think
was there.
he's just changing it. At that point, Gundo's, he's played in that more advanced position when KDB's been out several times, very effectively. So he probably wanted to push Gundo up because he's sniffed out a few goals over the season. And Fernandinho is a fairly obvious choice. Him or Rodri, either of them are fine to come and do that job. I don't think you can read too much into that sub. It's basically like for like, but just moving a couple of players around.
No, it was noteworthy, but not a lot to dissect from it. After 68 minutes, this is all happening quite quickly now. Mahrez puts in a cross, but it's to no one, and they'd have a couple of these. Jesus is on, but there's no one in the middle when the cross comes in. It's a neat bit of play. Chelsea actually get turned on a rare occasion where they're actually running back towards their own goal. It's a good cross, but Azpilicueta comfortably clears. I think it's Gundogan at the back post that he's got to keep it away from, but pretty comfortable. And then the best chance for Chelsea to double their lead. 73 minutes. Pulisic is on, and he has a chance from Kai Havertz. So this time, Kante dispossesses Gundogan, plays it into Pulisic, and it's a lovely little flick round the corner for Havertz. Diaz gets sucked into Pulisic, and as he does, it's now Havertz running pretty much one-on-one with Stones. Havertz joins in. Diaz is trying to get back, and he just uses him in that right-hand position, gets into the box, a little bit on the stretch, but he tries to just dink it over Ederson and doesn't manage it, does he?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent break, excellent chance, very well worked and lightning quick. I think you've got to give Ederson a lot of credit. I watched it back, and Ederson comes out so quick and is so big that Pulisic doesn't actually have very much to hit at all once the ball is at his feet. So I think you give Ederson a lot of credit for that one. I know Pulisic is trying to dink it, but
I agree. He did a good job. Ederson got out. The XG for that is 0.37. Could be a bit higher if it was more centrally. He's not on the stretch, and a good position from the keeper to make it difficult. But that with a little over 15 minutes left felt like a big one, because you expect City to mount something. You expect them to score. You expect them to score in every game. And you thought, have Chelsea given up the chance here? But wasn't to be.
yeah, it was. I mean, you expect City to kind of mount the pressure up and keep coming, but it never felt like Chelsea were hanging on, even at the death. City didn't really create anything of quality. They came in, they were in a few favourable situations, which of course you will be if you're in the opposition half for 45 minutes, but I think Chelsea were comfortable, much more comfortable than they would have expected to be.
Yeah. To mention favourable positions, a minute later, City do get into a good position. They do what they love to do, and that's get in behind fullbacks with their wingers in the box, on the byline, cutbacks for a tap-in. And they try to do it, but Chelsea drop off, reduce the space, and Fernandinho's pass for Sterling is good. It's in behind Reece James. He makes the run, but he's having to sprint to the byline, and he can only hook back across. And Chelsea have got numbers. They're willing to put it all on the line, get back in a group, and it comes to nothing. Falls behind Jesus, and they clear comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, it's good run, excellent ball, but they just ran out of pitch, and then the ball's coming backwards with not much pace. It's a lot easier to cut out. Whereas if he had another yard or two, he can drill it across, and then you're asking different questions.
Yeah, that's what they want to be doing. They want Sterling to obviously have control of the ball in that area, look up, pick his pass out, as we've seen him do so many times. But they did well to engage on the ball in the first place, and then drop. And say there's no space for him really to get weight the pass enough that he'll ever be able to control it. And the reason we're bringing these up, like the Mahrez cross a moment ago, is because there were so few City openings that we're trying to pick out where you think that they're trying to do something, it's not coming off. But yeah, it was desperation.
Yeah, it's slim pickings really second half.
They had another one after a couple more subs. So Sterling came off, Aguero came on after 77. So they've got Jesus and Aguero on this time. It's funny how they've done it so much this season, playing with no centre forward. That's not even been mentioned in terms of their selection, because we know that's worked. Talk about no defensive midfielder, but maybe a combination of the two was the big problem. Just all of the attacking midfielders is too much. We'll never know. Mount came off around this time as well. Kovacic came on. Good for the England fan. Keep him wrapped up in cotton wool for the summer. We're going to need him. City on the 90th minute. Nobody in the middle again. A similar sort of thing. Gundogan works it wide to the left. They pull off a good little switch here. It starts on City's right, into the middle, out to the left. It's Diaz who puts the cross in this time, venturing forward, but there's no one there. It goes all the way to the back post to Foden, who tries for the back post to Mahrez, excuse me. Tries to find Foden, but a block shot again. And again, it's comfortable from Christensen.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of the same, really. Go out wide, put it into a nice area, but just nothing happening.
Yeah. And then I guess the final chance of the game, it's not a good chance, but it was so close and it's memorable, and time stood still
Whisker
as well
away.
as seemingly every player on the pitch. The Mahrez chance.
Yeah. I mean, it comes to him at an awkward height, and he kind of gets his foot really high, and he's just trying to keep it down and direct it towards goal. And everybody is just standing still as his ball travels through the air and desperately looking to see where it ends up. And it is a fraction away. It would have been a really good goal.
It would have been very, very harsh.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, 0.06 on the XG. It's not a good chance, but it's it was so close, and it was their last effort, deep into injury time, 6 minutes in of the 7 that was allotted, and that was pretty much it. It was. I mean, we've seen an underdog win a Champions League final before. That's happened before. Chelsea have done it in 2012. Liverpool did it in 2005, but there was kind of chaos in there, wasn't there? Whereas, can you remember an underdog deservingly and comfortably in control winning the game? Yeah.
Doesn't happen too often, and I think it's particularly noticeable, for us, because we see these teams every week in the Premier League. We know how good Man City are. We know how much better than Chelsea they are. In general, Chelsea pulled a number on them a couple of times this season, but it just feels like Chelsea have found a way to play against Man City that really suits them, and City struggle with. They've struggled 3 times now. But yeah, I think it was very notable for Chelsea coming there and really deserving to win against a team that everybody expected to just brush them aside.
Yeah, I reckon the last time an underdog deservedly won in the Champions League final like that and did it, with a bit of authority and in control was Dortmund in '97 against Juventus. 3-1, proper turned them over. But I can't think of anyone since then. It doesn't happen that often. It certainly doesn't happen to City. It was their lowest expected goals tally of the season.
That is quite something. Lowest of the season. You think of all the games they've played, and this is the most important of the lot.
Yeah. As you say, you always expect them to score. You certainly expect them to create chances. 7 shots.
If they're not scoring, you're expecting them to be absolutely knocking on the door.
Yeah. I mean, 1 shot on target, 4 shots inside the box, 2 dangerous chances, no big chances. And we've covered the 2 dangerous chances, Foden and Sterling. No big chances.
Something. It's astonishing.
0.45 expected goals.
Yeah, I can't remember a game where City was... I can't remember a game where they've been controlled so comprehensively for the whole game.
Yep. Chelsea, on the other hand, 8 shots, 2 on target, 6 inside the box, 6 dangerous chances, of which we've covered all of them, including 4 big chances. 1.91 on the XG there. So absolutely good for it. Deserved. So Werner with 3 good chances, 2 of which were big chances of the 4 that Chelsea had. Mount laid on 3 chances. That was the most in the game. 2 big chances that led to. So 2 players that were of good influence there. Who was your man of the match?
I think it has to be all action N'Golo Kante. He was everywhere, nipping in, stopping attacks from Man City, starting attacks of their own for Chelsea, and everybody was falling all over themselves to praise him, and I think rightly so. He had a fabulous game.
I'm not going to disagree. It was a superb performance from him, and City could have done with him in their midfield. Fair?
He's just got so much energy. It's quite something.
I really enjoyed post-match as well. Des Kelly interviewed Havertz. You seen this?
I have seen a clip of it, yet. A few naughty words in there.
I think
enjoying life.
Yeah, a few naughty words, which Des Kelly has to apologise for. I'm just going to let the audio do its thing. Havertz talking about being Chelsea's biggest signing here.
Kai, that's a good point, because there's a lot of pressure on you. You're the most expensive Chelsea player ever. You paid it all back in one night, nearly.
To be honest, right now I give a fuck on that. We won the fucking Champions League, and we just celebrate now.
I apologise for that fruity language, but you understand why. The emotions are flying high.
I mean, it's a bit of a daft question, isn't it?
They're all daft questions. You never get a good question. I don't know what. I don't know what they do all game.
30 seconds after they've won the Champions League final, and you're asking him about his transfer fee. I mean,
yeah. And he's like,
"Come on, mate.
I'm just going to swear a couple of times. Why not? Can't blame him." So, in terms of the aftermath of this game, Chelsea qualify for the Club World Championship, and Mason Mount has already declared them the best in the world after that result last night. Don't know where that came from. I think he was getting a little bit carried away. Bless him. But where does that leave?
I get on very well with Mason Mount.
Do you? Yeah. Just absolute tripe hyperbole all the time. Is that what you mean?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Where does that leave City? I know it's one result. Let's not overreact, but
I mean, they've been building up to winning the Champions League for years now. That's their goal That's what their focus is. They've done everything else. I think they're going to be devastated. And I think, Aguero's going. They don't really have a striker now. It's going to be tough for them to kind of start again and start from the beginning and have to do it all over again next season. Get that motivation back. I think Pep will be asking himself a few questions as well.
Oh, you think he'll keep his job?
Probably. Pochettino's knocking about, so maybe not. Do you think maybe they go all in for a Harry Kane now? That's really their biggest gap is they don't have a striker, and they do like to sometimes play without a striker. Well, often this season, but you need that focal point at times.
They've been very successful without a centre forward. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's what Pep would prefer to do. It may well be that he just feels he's getting more out of an attacking midfielder as a false nine, the two forwards he's got. It doesn't bode well for Jesus because Aguero's been injured, and he's not as quick off the mark, I don't think, as he was. Injuries have maybe caught up with him when he does play. Still a fantastic player, of course. But there's question marks. Yeah, I don't know what it says about Jesus, really. I would expect them to sign a forward, yes. Kane, it's going to be money that they haven't spent on one individual before. They have that ceiling of 60-odd million, and I realise they've bought 20 players for 60-odd million, but they don't tend to buy one for 100, 150, or they haven't. Never mind, they don't tend to.
Yeah, I think it might be time. And as for Chelsea, where do you think this will lead them to next season? What are your expectations of how they might do with a full season under Thomas Tuchel?
Well, as I mentioned, with City about it's just a one-off game. This result wouldn't have changed anything for Chelsea. I think they're in the hunt. They've got to be looking to challenge with the quality of players that they've got and the manager that they've got, who I'm a big fan of. I was a big fan of him at PSG. I think they've got the right guy. They're implementing the right system, and yeah, they've got a good group. I'd be really surprised if they're not in the title hunt next season, along with Liverpool and City.
Title hunt, bold.
I think so. They might be falling short, but I think they should be knocking on that door. Yeah.
This is a perfect springboard for them to, to have the confidence to say, yeah, we can be in that mix.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll spend some more money. They tend to, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I think that just about wraps it up for us today. We've covered the Champions League final in as much depth as we want, and maybe as much as you want, maybe too much, who knows. But we've enjoyed it, and we will be back next week covering Euro 2020. We'll be doing a full preview before the tournament starts, talking about our favourites, the squads, and who might have the best or the hardest route. We've already kind of touched on that with England. It's not a good one. We'll cover that in full depth next week. You can head over to Twitter and follow us at blogofthenet_, and follow us on YouTube. Give us a subscribe, please. That's the best way you can support us. And you get a little shout out when you do it, even though Euro's not happy with that. You do. Okay, that just leaves us to say goodbye. So have a good week, and we will see you next time. Goodbye, Justin.
Bye-bye.